computer. This is Randy Kirk, and I am thrilled to be having Larry Goldberg with me to talk about what just happened at the Tesla earnings call. And of course, the folks that are expressing themselves by buying or selling in the after hours, as almost always, are selling off, and we're down 11 points. So if you think you're going to like what we're going to do, you can like now or you can like later, subscribe, notify, do all that kind of stuff. And follow Larry at Tesla Larry. Okay, Larry, high level, what are the first 2 or 3 things that you heard, you saw that impressed you or didn't impress you?
Right, cost control, very disciplined approach to the business, excellently run business. I mean, if you look at the numbers, actually they beat expectations. They're 91 to 83. That's a big beat.
Yeah.
The press is not going to accept that. You know, they're going to have all kinds of quibbles, but it was a beat. It was short my number, but what's interesting is that where I missed was not in the car business, but in the detail of some of the other businesses. We didn't quite see the growth and margin that I expected. But in the car business, we kind of came in right. My margin was a little high, but their margin was very respectable.
Yep, it's true.
And they spoke about how, you know, the business has improved significantly, that they acknowledged the price pressure, but felt that they operated very well within the price pressure. I would say that if I were running this business, I would give myself an A minus.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even an A. I mean, maybe even an A. I mean, I'm not sure where the minus is. Maybe the minus is, you know, the energy business didn't deliver the volume it could have, but then they're contractually bound, you know, by these very large contracts. So I'd say that, you know, all the numbers are good. All the numbers were good. So the energy business, it's very hard to predict at this point. They have these very, very large contracts. They're going to take time. The services business really did outstandingly well. I think it's tracking my predictions about this about the charging business. I think you're going to be sorry about your selling the charging business. I think it's an outstanding business. I think it integrates with their business, and this whole process by which they're licensing all these guys to do it, and that it's presaging what they're going to be doing with the, you know, FSD. I mean, this is the most exciting announcement of the day, without doubt, was FSD licensing, and that they're already speaking to somebody about FSD licensing. This is huge news. It's really revolutionary news. You know, if I were the buyer, if I were Mr. Market, the stock would be up 10, 15 points.
Yes. So let's take a look at a couple of things that you just talked about. Let's start with the FSD news, which you consider to be the #1 thing that just took place. And I consider it to be one of at least maybe 2 or 3, but right up there at the top. But I think that statement was pre-planned. I think that they intended to do that. They got the prompt, but they also intended to put it out there, because what does it do? It tells every other OEM in the world, we're already talking to one.
Get in line.
You better get on the phone.
It'll be very interesting to see who the first announcement is with. And if it's with Ford, I wouldn't be shocked.
No.
But I would be very pleased.
Yeah. Well, it could be probably anybody. I would say that there's 2 or 3 that come to my mind immediately. They've had a great relationship with Mercedes in the past.
Yeah.
Mercedes would be one who would be really messed up if they don't have it, because it's a luxury car, and the luxury car owners are going to be the ones that want this. So I think it would really impact them quickly. They probably also have more flexibility in starting to put in the cameras and whatnot. Ford, I think, has a big problem. They've already said they have 120 suppliers for their software suite, and all of that's got to kind of come together.
I think I think, honestly, I think Farley's going to solve that by going to one software supplier. I think Farley is not messing around. He means business. And if Bill Ford will let him do it, I think he'll end up, licensing both the 48-volt battery harness and technology and the software from Tesla. I wouldn't shock me at all.
Yeah, smart move. I can't say enough about how smart I think that would be. So you also mentioned in terms of the sober mood, the soberness with which they talked about what they're dealing with right now. And I had another word that came to my mind. I would agree with you on the sober part. I also think the thing that just always gets me is the transparency. Yes, they cannot give away everything. They can't say, oh, yes, we're going to shut down the 3 plants because we're going to switch over to, Highland 3, and mess up all of their secrecy around that. But on the things they can be transparent about, they're more transparent than any calls I've ever heard.
It was amazing. I was tracking the share price because I had predicted to my brother that the share price would go down as Elon speaks. When Zach speaks, the share price goes up. When Elon speaks, the share price goes down. Because Elon gives it all away, but he kind of just throws it out there. Zach is very measured. He gives the corporate speak version that is easily digestible.
Right.
But I was watching Brighter with Herbert. They had all these luminaries on, and I was listening to them, and I was commenting. I said, the stock price is going to look pretty good after the announcement, but it's going to go down consecutively as Elon speaks and answers the questions. And boy, did it happen in spades. It was so funny. But we'll see a plunge in the price for Monday and Tuesday. But wow, this was an extremely illuminating meeting, and the news was, it's hidden there. Most people are not going to pick up on it, but the FSD story, the licensing story, it's huge news. The fact that they feel very good about their gross margin recovery is pretty big news. Where I missed badly was in revenue and margin on energy.
Right.
But they made it very clear that that's coming, and that's down. But I feel very good about the services margin because I see that all coming from the charging network, or a lot of it coming from the charging networks. So yeah.
So there was a bunch of things that when you get down into the weeds, and we won't go too long into the weeds, but at least I think it bears conversation. There was an FX hit.
Yeah.
An exchange hit, I think, of a couple of $100 million.
Yeah, but they also spoke about an exchanging
benefit. I know.
Benefit within that. So I think that's in the pay. Well,
but in the P&L, it looked like there was an exchange hit. So
but buried in their revenue was an exchange improvement. So
right.
It's really hard to tell. They paid out. They had an expense of the exchange hit.
Right.
And then they it's not sufficiently transparent. If I were to ask a question of Zach, I would ask him to explain that.
Right, yes. Then another one was, which I have to give it to Rob Maurer. He's the one that picked up on this. There was a 300 million increase in the regular overhead, which they explained was due to much higher expenses related to Cybertruck, Dojo, etc. That they needed to book, and that's $300. I mean, that's $300 million that goes right to goes right to the general overhead, and which would not normally be there.
I picked up on that very quickly because that's one of the areas that I was shy. I picked on it very quickly, and it became clear to me that there's an R&D component to Dojo, and then there's a capital expenditure component to Dojo. And they gave away that the capital expenses on Dojo is going to be $1 billion. But developing Dojo to chip is a big number, a really big number. You know, all of that design work and all the engineering work and the R&D on that is a big number. So I think that's a big component of it. The other factors are correct, but I think that's a big number of it. And I picked up on that, and I realize now when they showed us the Dojo graph and they talked about the second iteration of it, we should have added some buffer for that. But it's not going to stop. I think we're faced with a couple of quarters now, in the next 3 or 4 quarters of pretty intense R&D with the unbox process. I guess we're at the end of the Cybertruck R&D process, but certainly Dojo 2. And I think the re-architecting of FSD is going to absorb quite a bit of R&D.
Right. Okay. And so then he talked about the fact that maybe total production units for the third quarter might be flat to down a little bit because of the factories being shut down for overhaul, for improvements.
What I picked up was that it was going to increase, but not as much as it should have.
Oh, that'd be interesting to go back and read.
He said it would not be flat. That I've got to go back and listen to it, because my ears pricked on the same item, but then he modified that to say it won't be flat, but it won't be an increase that it should have been, but it's unpredictable.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's interesting. We need to get that firmed up.
Yeah.
But however, if it is even less than we've all expected for the third quarter, I would just expect that to mean that the number of days of inventory is just going to drop like a rock, and that also should allow them to increase the price. That's a fair comment. As the orders come in. Yeah. All right. So let's see. Energy storage factories. He says right in the notes, it says the first 2 of many. So of course we all knew that, we've all been talking about it, but it was kind of nice to hear it said that way.
Right. Yeah, that was very encouraging. And what was also encouraging was clearly they've delivered more than they're booked, from a contractual point of view. So I think we're seeing some, big buffer coming into next few quarters. It would be nice to understand that backlog a little bit better. Most companies that deliver capital equipment on that scale really provide that detail. I think it is incumbent upon the analysts to really press for that level of detail in their disclosures. I would expect that to come. I mean, I've dealt with companies that deliver large capital contracts, and that's probably the most crucial part of their accounting. And so I would really encourage the analysts and Tesla to think seriously about disclosing that a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that would be really, really good. I don't see any reason why it can't be in the notes. And maybe when they come out with their more detailed presentation, when they do their filing, maybe there will be some more notes on that. But I'm guessing from what I've heard, not necessarily because we know this, but some people speculating that there might be a range of contracts all the way from pay on delivery to having to meet certain criteria over a year before the entire thing is actually recognizable.
Yeah, all we need is some level of backlog,
right,
and some idea of the quarterly deliveries, or some notion of what those quarterly deliveries are looking like, because they must have that, and it does not seem like something that shouldn't be disclosed or couldn't be disclosed. So I think it would be valuable for us.
I think one thing was interesting that I think would, maybe you probably picked up on this as well. He said that the energy division will be shooting for the same level of margins as the automotive division, which I not only took like, okay, it's at 18% now. They've told us before 25 to 30. So that also means that their ultimate goal on automotive is also 25 to 30. That's a way to back into that number, that is kind of where they're thinking is that 25 to 30 range. Because I was kind of beginning to think, well, maybe the 25 to 30 that they were hitting last year was kind of an oddball situation because of the crazy market that we were in, the boom bust thing that was going on. And that 25 to 30 would be, not even aspirational in normal times, but I'm beginning to think maybe that is their kind of normal expectation.
I would be shocked if they would be able to maintain a 30% margin. Truly shocked, given the potential for global competition from the Chinese manufacturers shipping from China. I think 20% is the more rational, normal. I think the 30% is the innovator's opportunity in the early period of the ramp. But I could be wrong. I mean, I really can't see that 30%. Look, you've got to look at the price of the car, and you've got to think about what people are prepared to spend. Now, when robotaxis become a thing, then you also have to separate the robotaxi revenue, from the auto revenue,
and even the FSD revenue. Yeah,
it becomes a different market. It becomes a different product. So then we go through that S curve again, and then the margins at the base are very, very, abnormally high until they settle. So, this is the layer of S curve upon S curve upon S curves. But if we look at the normal 4-wheel vehicle, with a cockpit for 4 to 8 people or 4 to 6 people, then I think 20% is, BMW and Mercedes strive for that 20%. I think that's realistically the best you're going to get now. Can it get lower than that? Yeah, but I think, then we have to look to the FSD story and the leverage on that. So there's always this kind of S curve upon S curve upon S curve. So we'll see.
Okay. So this is kind of a minor issue, and yet it's not. I loved what they said about the closed loop repair system.
Yeah.
They even spent 2 or 3 minutes on it. It's something that I did a video on a few months ago. But the ability, so let me see if I can remember all the components to this. So number one, they've got 8 cameras. So the 8 cameras are seeing in real time what's happening in the accident. What happened before the accident, what happened during the accident, what happens after the accident. Then the internal systems that they have are measuring things almost like an airplane does. They got the black box basically after the accident that is now able to measure what was taking place inside the car, in the seat, in the driver's compartment, and they've got the cameras inside the driver's compartment. So they got all these kinds of things that are measuring what's happening after. Now they're the people that do the repair. So they get a chance to look at the vehicle afterwards and see what crumpled, what didn't crumple, how did it crumple. And they even talked about recognizing that the way that the car got hit on a T-bone in an intersection turned out to be a lot different than how most people thought it was going to get hit in that T-bone and what was going to happen in that situation, causing them to make changes in the design of the car to be more effective in an actual accident, as opposed to what NISTA, the National Highway Traffic Safety, anyway, those guys, what they believe is going to happen and what they actually make you, create the car to withstand. So, and then they're an insurance company, so they have a built-in reason for caring about getting the cost of the repair down wherever that repair cost might be. So all of those things, that combination, not only the combination, the individual things by themselves, as well as the combination, it's not even a thought. It's not even, how would they call it, the baby? It wasn't even an idea in your mother's mind, or your father's mind, at that point.
Well, a lot of insurance companies are equipping cars with sensors. And, a lot of them are moving towards this. Nobody has the facilities that Tesla had. But I have to tell you, I had a bruising experience this morning with Tesla service. Took my car in. It wasn't a good experience. I'm going to write it up and who knows what will happen. But it wasn't a good experience. So between the theory and the practice, there's still a gulf. But in theory, in concept, they really have those pieces. But what I took away from that answer is that the simpler the manufacture of the car, the simpler the solution to fixing the car. Now, a lot of my client base in my decision company were insurance companies, and some of the biggest in the country. And they tell me that, the problem, that insurance isn't all about how many accidents your clients have. It's the cost of repairing those accidents that's going to determine ultimately the premium, or is a very big component of the. And so some of them are complaining about insurance. So I actually looked at my insurance today and ended up changing my insurance. And the difference between what I went from and to was gigantic. I'm a fool. I'm an idiot. I don't look at my personal expenses. I don't. And that's idiotic. That is stupid. That's just throwing money away. And my insurance premium went from, I'm too embarrassed to say how much it was. It went down by 2/3.
Oh my gosh. And was that switching to Tesla, or was that switching to somebody else?
Tesla, not in North Carolina. It was switching to, and here's the joke of it. This is how funny it is. I won't mention the name of the companies. Maybe I should actually, but it was going from one company to another. And this other company that gave me the really good rate is a company that is owned by this company that had the really bad rate.
Oh my gosh.
Reason I'm not mentioning their names is that they both were clients of mine.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right.
It is shocking. I couldn't believe it. And I can't believe all these years. I've owned Tesla since 2017. All these years I've been paying like 3 times the rate I could have got.
Yeah.
That was just an aside. It had nothing to do with the day's earnings. Although in a way it does.
So another aspect of the earnings call, which I paid attention to, was the fact everybody always wants something really concrete that they can take home. And in this particular case, on my channel, I think even maybe when you and I talked about it, on other people's channels, on Twitter, people talked about the things that they were hoping for. We were hoping for the promised 30-minute Optimus commercial. We were hoping, or video. We were hoping for a specific date for the Cybertruck handoff. We were hoping maybe for an announcement of the AI Day 3 date. There was a number of things like that we were hoping for. We got zero in terms of something you could take home to mama. As you mentioned, we had the one, big takeaway that you loved, but even that, it wasn't like a picture of a car. It wasn't a date. It wasn't a video of Optimus. So what do you think about, do you think that it's important to do at an earnings call, or do you think it doesn't matter?
I predicted we wouldn't hear any of the above. I said he may mention the Cybertruck delivery, which he did in passing, that he hopes to deliver this year. But I would have been surprised if we'd got any of that. I would have been very pleased, but very surprised if we'd got any of that. I think, look, and Tesla has a really, really bad record with earnings calls.
Yeah, yeah,
The best earning call we've ever had was when Elon didn't turn up.
right, exactly.
And it was my hope today that Zach would have handled the call, because I think Zach would have been able to handle the transition from the old pricing and profit regime to the new pricing and profit regime. We're moving from, a low volume, high end manufacturer into what is going to become a middle of the road, wide range of vehicles across the whole spectrum. They already own the largest selling vehicle in the world.
Right.
It can't be a premium vehicle. And it's a realization that we have been slow to come to, but the pandemic and the associated recession or quasi-recession or whatever it was, recession, is bringing us to terms with.
Yeah, yeah.
And so this is the new world. This is not Elon's language. Elon is talking about product, and he's talking about the future, and he's talking about FSD, and he's talking about. This is not Elon's language, but it is Zach's language.
Right, right.
Watch it. The moment Elon began, it started. The price started going up, and it'll recover. I mean, it'll be fine. The number was a big beat.
Yeah.
The market was betting 81. It was 91. That's a big beat.
It's a big beat. Yep. And it was a beat on the revenue as well, which was kind of
revenue,
right.
I am very pleased with the numbers. I'm very pleased with the direction of the company. I'm very pleased with where management is. I really liked, some of the pieces that we got today, and I really love the FSD licensing. I think, that's potentially there's your $1 trillion company.
Billions, yeah. So let's talk about my favorite subject and the another little piece of news that they gave us, which is Optimus. So I was I think this was big. They said, okay, we only got.
We're all wrong.
Is what? Huh?
You were all wrong. Admit it.
About how many bots are working now? I only said 1,000 by the end of the year. We're not by the end of the year yet.
Yeah, that's true. But we had all these guys saying there were 500 in the factory, or 1,000 in the factory, or 200 in the factory. It's got six bots or 10.
10 bots. Okay, so here's my point.
And at a stretch.
What I thought was interesting, what I think was eye-opening, is he said, first of all, he's got the 10 bots that are actually doing something right now. But they also said that the limiting factor is the actuators.
Manufacturing actuators, yeah.
Manufacturing actuators. But then he said, we're going to be ready to build those at scale in November. He put a date on it. It's like the only big fact that he, except for yours, the business of FSD licensing. And that was only a maybe. That was like, okay, we're talking to somebody. It's not, we don't have a deal yet. The actuators beginning to be in production in November, and then building them for their own factory. I'm assuming immediately after that. So we could be looking at my 1,000 in weeks or months.
I would be a little bit more measured about that.
Okay.
Because firstly, they have to finish the engineering on the actuators.
Right.
Then they have to start the engineering on the production line. And that, that's not going to happen. I mean, it sounds like, and it probably is dramatically simpler than manufacturing a vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
But you've still got to put the production line into place. Now, the production line is very similar to their drivetrain production line. It's not dissimilar to the drivetrain production line. And the assembly part, after the pieces, the motors and the actuators are built, the assembly line is dramatically simpler. I agree with all the above. But I don't think before the actuators are done that production. So I think we're still 9 months away to 12 months away from pilot production. That's my reading of this.
But we need maybe to go back and listen again. But what I heard him say, I think what I heard him say was, once we have the actuators in production, that we can then begin to make some for our own factory. So again, we may be talking a pilot line, we may be talking partly hand built. I think that's what he said. So I'm only saying that that would mean after November, sometime after November, the unit volume could pop up to some of
Who is speaking then?
Zach. Oh no, it wasn't Zach. It was one of the other guys, I think.
I think it was Elon.
Oh no, it wasn't Elon. I don't think so. Anyway, but that bears going back and listening carefully to see what was said there. But
It was Elon had a year. If it wasn't Elon, okay.
Anyway, so my new theory will be the actuators will be the limiting factor. We'll have those by the end of the year. They will begin to produce some volume, meaning, I don't care, 100 at a time, 200 at a time, something that's going to go into their own factory. They've hired the guy to start building the actual line up in Reno. So he'll begin to put that line together, pilot line that might be able to do 100 a month or 200 a month or whatever, sometime later in the year. All of that designed to start going into full production, maybe by the end of next year, maybe into 2025. Any way you count that, if that's even close, it's still way ahead of what most people are thinking.
I agree.
And should be, I mean, the number one thing that comes out of the meeting. I mean, if that's true, the dollars are just, incredible.
Yeah, and I'm going to buy everything you said. I have become convinced, largely by you, that and others who are experts in robotics, that the robot is a much shorter time to market than FSD has been, because it's possible to get value, very high value, out of a robot at very low levels of FSD efficacy. So you can put a robot into a production line job at a relatively low entry level and get real value. I was on a call, on a Spaces call with some folks the other day, and somebody was very dismissive of that because they were thinking about the bot, doing the housework or whatever. But no, I think that we know so much about robots in industrial production and we're already using, somewhat person-like robots in robotic production, that the path to robotic production is pretty quick, and Optimus is such a improvement upon anything that has come before, that path to the market is already clear. That use case is very clear, and I know every product can have 1,000 use cases, but the speed at which you're able to get those use cases productive and profitable is really what determines the success, of a product. And I think Optimus is on that path, very rapid path. So I love it.
Okay, so I'm gonna I'll go first. I'll put out my number, what I think is going to happen in the next few days and weeks. I think we will have the normal sell-off tomorrow. I don't think it'll be 11 points like it is right now in the after hours. That last time I checked, it was still 11 down. Let's see.
13
and a half. Yeah, 13 and a half now. I don't think it'll be down 13 and a half in the morning. However, I think it'll be down tomorrow and Friday and Monday, is as much about the normal fall off after earnings call, but also the continuation of the uncertainty around the NASDAQ reset. So I saw today, Apple, they announced they were going to do, they're going to do their own, GPT system. The stock shot up for a minute and then completely fell apart. And it's like, no, everybody's waiting for this reset to find out what they really are going to do. And so I think that'll continue to bother the Magnificent Seven until Monday. And then we'll see what happens. We'll see how that rebalancing looks.
So what's your call for Monday? Down 10?
So down tomorrow, I think we'll flirt. We might flirt around with that 13 number during the day, 1450. We might be down in the 282, 283 range, maybe even drop a little below that to 280. But I think we'll pop back up. It'll do what it normally does. It'll go down fairly rapidly in the morning, and then it'll slowly, move up during the day as people go, I'm going to buy this bargain, the bargain hunters will come in. And then I think we might do a repeat of that on Friday. You might have a little sell-off and then build back up, and then Monday, who knows, because that's the reset day.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more bearish than you are. I think we may see a dip as far down as 20.
Wow.
15, 18. That's what I think. We've got some really bad headlines to come tomorrow morning.
Did you look at any of the headlines today?
Yeah,
most of them were neutral. They weren't negative, but they weren't positive either.
Right.
They were neutral.
Yeah, you can beat, but if it's Tesla, it doesn't matter. I think we'll see. We may actually flirt with 15 or even lower for a while, and then a lot depends on how excited the world gets about this FSD licensing. I think can you imagine if they announce a Ford FSD license?
Oh yeah,
that's like 100 points on the stock price.
Should be absolutely right. And the other thing, of course, is the long term. I think that after the rebalancing on Monday, I think we'll see Tesla short any specific news, like somebody saying they want the FSD license. Short any specific news, we'll start bouncing up against that 300, and probably it will take the actual news of the Cybertruck handoff date to get us to break 300 and start moving towards 350.
But you should take a bow.
I should, yes.
You should take a bow. You came damn close to that 300. I mean, you called it.
72 cents.
No, you can take a bow. I mean,
I'll do that.
It had such a record, in the last month or so. It's been amazing. But by the way, I did take a very small position to hedge tomorrow. So
okay, all right.
A little bit for tomorrow morning. So we'll see. I've got a Friday call, a put expiring on Friday, so which I took today, and it'll be a nice cover for me, I think.
There you go.
I do this from time to time on the end of quarter call because it's so predictable. I mean,
it really is. It really is. Larry,
who knows? I mean, it could open 20 points up tomorrow.
You actually never know. But there really wasn't a catalyst. I mean, yes, if anybody picks up on what we're talking about in terms of the licensing thing, but again, that's a guess and a by golly, it's just a conversation. So I don't necessarily think that conversation enhances the market in the next 2 or 3 days.
But it is a buying opportunity tomorrow for sure. Yeah. I would say that it's just as today was a selling opportunity or a cover opportunity.
Yeah.
Tomorrow by midday, I think we have a true buying opportunity, for long-term accumulation.
Yep, absolutely right. Larry, thank you so much for coming on. This is exactly what I was hoping it would sound like and look like. I think we did a good job of covering what was really important. Let us know in the comments below. What did we miss? What did we get right? What are you thinking? And then we'll see what happens with the market tomorrow morning. So hit like, hit subscribe, hit notify. Larry will be back as usual on Friday night, and we will discuss what took place on Thursday and Friday. That should be really entertaining. And then, so that's why you want to hit notify to make sure you get notified about that. And follow Larry at Tesla Larry. Follow me on Twitter and everywhere else, but also join up on Patreon. I'm shooting for that 100, past 70, shooting for 100 by the end of the month. You can help out the channel as well as get the unique content that I'm putting up there now. Larry, thanks again for being on board.
Take care.
All right. And to all of you, it's been great talking to you.